Hey everybody, I have been buying and selling on eBay for over 20 years. I still go on eBay all the time looking for good deals on games for my show. And sometimes I come across some crazy and some cool auctions. And I wanted to share some of what I found. Some head scratchers, some that I just find interesting, and some that I find kind of humorous. Let's start with this. We have an Intellivision 2, actually 3 system with the controllers and cable and super tape. So once in a while, you're going to find a seller who just has a box of miscellaneous things, and maybe out of laziness or just want to get rid of it, they throw everything into one auction. And what we have here is an Intellivision System 3 with blank 8-track tapes. How crazy is that? I mean, how many sellers or how many buyers are out there being like, okay, you know what I need to find? I need to find an Intellivision System 3. If the controllers are broken, and that's why it's so important that when you look at auctions that you try and zoom in. These controllers, they definitely, the overlay or this part where the overlay goes over is cracked and it's showing. This system has seen better days. But how many people are out there like, I need an Intellivision System 3, and you know what else I need? I need some blank 8-track super tapes. I really could use some of those. And here you go. This is your auction right here with new formula oxidized coating with super linear response for the recording perfectionist. So if you are in the market, one of them's a 90-minute tape. We got two 45-minute and a 90-minute tape. So if you're in the market for an Intellivision System 3 and some super tapes, this one's for you. So let's go on to the next one. How about this? An Atari 2600 and 7800 game lot of 14 awesome, perfectly working games with manual, except most of the games don't even have their cartridge shell anymore. Yes, it's just the chips. And in the auction, the guy says that I took the cartridges, I took the chips out of the cartridge for a school project, but the chips still work, which is true. They'll still work, but a lot of people, they don't want just the chip. They want the whole cartridge. Maybe once in a while, but in most cases that it's just not desirable just to have the chip. But I want to know what the project is. What project did you make with Atari cartridges? Now this one's kind of cool. It's expensive. Okay, we have a rare vintage Atari Computers paperweight lucite computer chip. So this is probably something that Atari made. I'm going to guess Atari Corp when they were getting into the chips. If someone knows about Atari chips, you can see this chip. I'm guessing this was a chip in their computer, or it could just be something totally unrelated. But it's just one of these things where it would be a great desk decoration. $250 is a lot for a paperweight. So it's not something, and this one's obviously seen better days, has scratches and scuffs. We've brought the computer age home. But it's still kind of a cool, kind of a unique item that you really don't see. And I'm guessing that they had some of these in Atari offices. It could be homemade, but I doubt it. All right. So this is an Intellivision Las Vegas Poker and Blackjack, brand new sealed for $10. That's not what gets me. What gets me, what I think is cool about this, is the dude has a Toys R Us sign in the backdrop. I mean, this looks like a sign that actually came from a store. That is awesome. I would just totally dig to have that sign. So that's why that's a cool auction. Here's an interesting one. So this guy turns lazy into an art form. This is so crazy, but it almost becomes cool. So we have 318 Atari, Xbox, PlayStation, Wii U, PC, console games, software, drift systems and stuff. And he wants $1,600, or he can make an offer. That's quite a bit of money for all that stuff. I think that might be a little too high. So what you have here is almost an organized hoarder. And what really interests me is in this one picture. Let's see if I can get it zoomed in. So he has the games, and he has them labeled with pieces of paper. And then he has, I'm 6'1". And it almost looks like he is including himself in the auction, because all this stuff with the paper, obviously these boxes in the background, these may not come with the auction, right? This is like a really kind of a, in the basement, I just threw everything in piles, and here, if you want it, take it. But I love that he has a sign that says, I'm 6'1". So now you have a good gauge of how many games there are, I guess, because obviously we can all reference games based on someone's height. And I just love the deadpan look in his face too. Like, I really don't want to be here. Just take my stuff. So that was so lazy. It was almost cool. Here's something I find kind of fascinating. I think this is cool. It was a Intellivision and Intellivision 2 hand controller, new sealed in box. Now, the Intellivision 2 came with 2 controllers, so spare controllers weren't something that were in high demand, and I never saw this before this auction. So it's just a controller that came in a box. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. And I just find it fascinating. For some reason, I find it fascinating when you find these accessories that were kind of unusual. And you can see the original price was $13 about, and that was crossed off, so it probably was clearance out because not a lot of people needed an extra controller. And look at this new one, it sold for $185. So that is cool. It's not $185 cool to me personally, but I still think it's interesting. You know, I've seen a lot of Intellivision stuff. I've not seen a hand controller in the box like that before. This one is sentimental to me. This recently sold for $130. This was a 20 by 30 computer museum graphic of Nolan Bushnell. So this was, I guess, part of a museum setup. And I actually talked about this. I used to, listen to the Retro League podcast a lot. I was a guest a few times. And one time when I was a guest, I actually brought this auction up. And this was like two or 3 years ago. So this has been on eBay for a while and it just now sold. But I brought it up because I found it so humorous. Just the face that Nolan is. I mean, it almost looks like he's like sick or something because he just looks like he's drugged and like almost like this is like a hostage photo, like a blackmail photo. Like, we have Nolan hostage, send us money or else we will, we won't return him. So it's just such a bizarre photo to make a museum piece out of. It's not that flattering to me, but I still thought it was interesting to share. But yeah, it finally sold. And now the Retro League podcast is no more, but I think Hugh is on the Retro Game Club podcast. I think that, I think that's the only thing I know about that. So I missed that podcast. Here's one where I want to kind of use this as a learning example. This is crazy and kind of a crazy bad. So Asterix on the Atari 2600 is a very rare game, especially in the United States. But when it comes to some rare Atari 2600 games, you have to look at the label. So here you can see that the label clearly has the letter P on it. A P means it's a PAL format game. And here's why I think it's crazy. This is kind of like a pet peeve. The seller doesn't come right out and say it. It should say in the title PAL, P-A-L. And even in the description, it says NTSC when he picked the format. But he put down in the bottom that, let's see, also the game rolled on my older TV. I adjusted the vertical hold and played it just fine. There's a letter P at the end label. It may in fact be a PAL copy. That is all I know at this time. No, it is a PAL copy. And the PAL copy is worth a lot less than the US copy. So if you're looking for a game like Asterix, make sure you look at that end label. You look for the letter P. That's what Atari did. Now other companies did different things. Here's another kind of this is kind of a crazy, like, it's my pet peeve when sellers aren't completely upfront. So this guy is selling almost 4,000 PC games, okay? Just the discs only. And he wants basically $1 a game, which I don't know, maybe that's good, but I don't think people are really into buying old PC games. But let's look at some of the description. It says only the disc-only games. Please ignore any games below that say new, complete, or with case, or boxed, or jewel case. They are not included. So to me, that's kind of lazy. So there's times where he lists these games and he puts like what he thinks they're worth. And he says, comes with the case, it's new. And if you don't read the fine print, you might think you're actually getting some new games, okay? And then that's not all. All of these games were pulled from an active eBay store inventory. All of these were carefully inspected and can be repaired with most any disc repair machine. What? Conditions for these discs range from scratch-free to light to medium scratches. There may be some heavily scratched discs, but were deemed repairable. So basically he's saying, I mean, you read, it's like all over the place, but what he's saying is, yeah, some of these games are really bad, but maybe you can repair them. I'm not going to give you a return. So I wish he was, again, more upfront. You kind of have to read the fine print for that, because if you just are browsing it, you wouldn't get that. But I don't know. I don't foresee anyone buying this anytime soon. The last one, the pièce de résistance. People like to sell old photographs that they find. So we have an old Polaroid, and it says, Large Mama opens Atari 7800 Christmas present, 1980s vintage Polaroid photograph. And I am just fascinated by this photograph. I just want to know more about this story. I want to know who this person is, because there's just so many questions about this. I want to know, is this lady really getting an Atari 7800 for Christmas? Because at the time that the Atari 7800 came out, it was mostly targeted to kids, NES and stuff like that. So to see someone who's an older adult actually get a system fascinates me. I want to know, is she really a mama? I want to know, why are there newspapers spread on the floor? I want to know, is this what she really wanted, or is this something she's given to? It's just one of these auctions where, it's cool to find a kid. Usually you find pictures or videos of kids opening up video game systems at Christmas time, but to see an older adult at this time, so this is going to be the late 80s, maybe 88, 89, probably somewhere around there. So this is a late 80s photograph. You could tell because of the type of box the Atari's in. I want to know the story behind it. I'm just curious. Oh, and evidently I think they have a bird. So I wanted to know, were you happy to get an Atari 7800 Pro system? Because, I did a podcast, the Atari 7800 Game by Game podcast, and almost everyone who listened to the podcast says, I was a kid when I played it. I was a kid. And it would be fascinating to find adults who said, yeah, I was an adult and I wanted that. And it would just be cool to hear stories like that. So those are my crazy and cool eBay auctions that I found recently. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I might do another one of these in the future. I will see you next time.